one thing I want to impress upon us is that the practice that we do, especially the meditation that you do on your own, or coming to a group like this or any other, Dharma group, it's not a hobby. Okay, it's like not a sort of a recreation or kind of extra, or perhaps something alternative, kind of interesting. Buddhist group. It's actually probably one of the most important things you can do. It's about ending suffering. We have to remember, you look around the life, and not life in general. There's no life in general. That's the dream. The reality that you touch from moment to moment is rich with suffering. Right? It's not lacking dukkha. That's the condition we're born into. And we have a teaching that offers suggestions of how to deal with it. And maybe you'll find other teachings is true, but you need a teaching. Like, you need a path to deal with suffering. I mean, there's no way around it. Like, otherwise we're going to be trying to, we're simply following the tried and failed solutions that we're handed, which is basically, by fulfilling your desires, you will end your suffering. And when we try that, and we still get fooled, and try it again, it just doesn't satisfy. It doesn't last. So really what we want is not just a temporary relief. The Dharma is talking about a permanent relief, which doesn't mean the suffering, the pain ends, Your thoughts are not going to go away. I still find it remarkable when I hear people thinking or expressing to me, I just want to have like a quiet mind. And, who doesn't? But it's not going to happen. Because our idea of the quiet mind is that we will be, quiet and happy. But you've had a quiet mind, and you've been quiet and bored. You see? It's not about quiet mind. Quiet mind isn't enough. Quiet mind can just be bored mind, or it can just be like kind of a dull mind. Dull. And that's one of the hindrances that the Buddha pointed out. It's called sloth and torpor. Whatever that means. It just means that you're dull, and you're not very aware, and you're not noticing. Okay? That's okay if you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're just like, it's time to go back to sleep. But during the day, or when you're trying to practice, and you have dull mind, it can be confused sometimes in meditation with quiet mind. It's not, it's just dull mind, right? The thoughts are not the problem. And pain's not the problem. That's what I said in our, when I talked about our sitting with pain. It's not the obstacle to your meditation. Pain's not the opposite of happiness. Okay? Attachment is. Right? Grasping. Thirst. That's why the Buddha said, this desire is thirst, tanha. That's what he called it. Tanha is like thirst and need, like I need something. Why? To be happy. Okay? So that's the crux of the matter, is it's not your experience that is making you unhappy. Right? It's how much aversion and attachment you relate to it with that will create, suffering. And when we start to see that the suffering is coming from me, it's not coming from the outside. Pain is coming from the outside. Okay? And all sorts of difficult situations are coming from the outside. Right? It's true. The world is full of terrible things going on. Right? Ending suffering does not mean those things are going to end. That's also important. Like if you have some freedom in your life, it doesn't mean that suddenly the world is transformed and everybody's hunky-dory. No. Right? Does it mean the wars have stopped? No. It means you're able to see more clearly, not just through the lens of your dream of yourself. You see the world from its side, not just from your side and your projections. Okay? And that's what clear seeing is. Clear seeing is I see you as you are, not as I expect you to be. Okay, I can see this pain as it is, not with all of my hopes and aversions and attachments of how my body should be. Right? See your body as it is, not according to all the messages you've received and that you are, projecting. It's a tough one. Okay? Because we are so conditioned, all of our mind is pretty much conditioning. So when the Buddha talks about, the clear seeing and the type of awareness and the awakening, it's awakening to what's called the unconditioned, the unconditioned mind. What would that be like? To perceive without the perceiver. To see without the self-seeing, right? And to have thoughts without identifying them as me. It's actually not so hard. It's not so hard. Observe what's going on in your mind. And even observe the attachment and aversion that you have to those thoughts. And the type of identification you have. And still, what allows us to free ourselves from the chains of self that are binding us to our experience? That's why I emphasize, appreciate the impermanence of your experience. When you can, really feel comfortable with change, you'll see that self is less solid. Because change and solidity are oxymorons. They simply are not, they don't work together. And what wins out in the end is change. Okay? Change is stronger than permanence. Right? How do we know that? Well, because you're getting old and you're going to die. Okay? So obviously change is going to win. I read this last week, or I said, you can't bargain when the Buddha said, in that little sutra, you can't bargain with mortality. Like, you can't make a deal with death. You just can't. Faustian deal. It's not going to work. Right? You'll pay a heavy price. Okay, and the price is that you'll be living in an illusion. And then the suffering will be even worse when you have to face it. So, don't postpone. That's why all of that is just introduction to say, take this practice seriously. Don't wait till tomorrow. Strive to awaken today. Tomorrow may come. It will come, but you may not be here to welcome the day. Tomorrow definitely will come. You may not, though. What do you say after that? So I was planning to talk about compassion, which is true. Because compassion, what is compassion, first of all? Is motivated, is coming from that awareness, first of all, the awareness of dukkha. So the reason I started speaking about, dukkha and how to deal with dukkha, because it's the base of compassion. Without fully appreciating dukkha as our existential kind of reality, our compassion is a bit more of a mental concept, right? There's cognitive compassion, and there's actually, citta, or heartfelt compassion. Cognitive compassion, what is it? It's not it's taking suffering seriously, but not as my experience. But more like, it's the nature of the world. Here's like the example that I have every day. It's simply reading the newspaper. You want to have cognitive experience of compassion, meaning mental compassion. Read the newspaper. You'll be extremely upset and wish that all that suffering would end. And then you turn the page, you know, or you go to another site or whatever it is. I like newspapers. I like the paper, because then I can turn the page, right? Which is what I do. Yeah. But it doesn't really change my heart. What is going to transform the way you actually relate to yourself and others in this field of dukkha? Okay? What is going to cultivate a sense of care that actually, you know, it hurts me, and not just in a mental way like pity. Man, what a shame. What a shame. You know, God, the world's screwed up. People are bad. Yeah, that's pretty much what you get every day. It's like, how bad can it get? Worse, I guess. Every day it seems worse. It's like, what's the news from the White House today? Every day it's going to be worse. Okay? So, but forget that area of the world. Just read about what's going on in Burma. I was reading about what's going on in Burma, Rohingya, those refugees, like, holy cow. You know, I felt like I was reading about ISIS in Syria. It's like, wow, they're doing exactly the same thing. And to add insult to injury, since we're in a Buddhist, you know, center right now, it's a Buddhist country, and these are Buddhist soldiers, and the monks are cheering them on. How can this be? What happened? You know, this old Buddhist society from way back when, you know, right after the Buddhist time, carrying the torch of the teachings. You know, you want to go and experience the original Buddhism, go to Burma. People like to do that, feel they're getting the real thing. You know, even older, even like seems more real than or strict than Thailand. And Sri Lanka, same thing. You know, there's this nice old original Buddhism. One of the worst wars went on for 30, 25 years. And now what's going on in northern Burma? Wow. The descriptions, I was actually really amazed that I was reading the New York Times about it, and the descriptions were so graphic that it really was, you know, it was like the same thing ISIS is doing, all the same thing, beheadings and all the rapes, everything. I was like, oh, I can't, this is, you know? What do you say? What do you say? You know what I did? Turn the page. Turn the page. Okay? That's how we deal. That's how we deal. That is self-dealing. That's cognitive compassion. Yeah, I feel really bad about it, and it reinforces my view of human nature as totally screwed up and, you know, lost. Just in the grip of so much suffering. And yeah, you can have compassion for the perpetrators, these soldiers who are so lost in their small-mindedness and racism and hatreds. Yeah, okay, and for the victims, which is just horrible, horrible, horrible. You know, feel sick to your stomach, okay? But it doesn't do more than that, okay? I mean, I could practice what's called, like, idiot compassion and buy a plane ticket, go to Thailand and then Burma and then get killed or something, right? Like, what's that also going to do? So, how do we actually cultivate real compassion, change? How do we change our minds and not just turn the page? You see, we're well versed enough in the atrocities of, you know, this world so that we can protect ourselves pretty well. You know, how? Just go back to Facebook, you know, go back to your distractions. It's the same thing that we do the moment that we have some boredom or displeasure. We run away, we escape. It's the same thing we do when we experience pain in our meditation. Instead of taking a moment to become more acquainted, familiar with it, to explore it, to inquire, okay, we react according to our habits. which are about protecting my sense of self. The habits are all about protecting my sense of self. That's what these habits are about. Okay? So that's why I'm making a relationship between what we do in our meditation practice and what we do outside of our meditation practice. If you cannot sit with and explore for a moment the pain and discomfort you feel in your own sitting, in your own body, how the heck can you expect to do it outside where the pain is so much greater, okay? And so much more ubiquitous, and it's just universal. So this is, a real challenge to us. And that's why I will reinforce again and again that the practice you do in your sitting is essential, not just to have peace of mind, but to change your heart. Right? There's no way out of it. There's no way around it. You're going to have to do the work of facing your own discomfort. And then perhaps when you can approach that with a sense of, yes, I feel you, I see you, I acknowledge you fully. I feel you in my bones, okay? It is a visceral experience. It's not cognitive. How do we change our approach to dukkha from being just in my mind to actually in my heart? You do it in your own sitting first, right? And then we can start to explore how the pain of the world actually feels within my own body. First explore how the pain of your body feels within your own body. And don't just react habitually as to, my escape plan. Or the pain in your mind, right? The sadness, okay, the despair, the boredom, whatever is uncomfortable. Instead of immediately trying to solve that problem in your, favorite distractions, which we do. Instead of reacting with distraction, take a moment to answer that call. Okay? Dukkha is calling you in order to transform your heart. It's not in order to make you feel worse, but to help you. This is the noble truth of dukkha. It's what's called the noble truth, because dukkha itself is transformative. It is there as a teacher, not as an enemy. So if you start to see every time you feel discomfort, pain, suffering, anytime you see it in yourself or in the world as the essential teacher to transform your heart so that you can relate less reactively and more with inquiry and care. Remember, paying attention is caring. Running away, ignoring, denying, right? What is that? Okay, it's not caring, right? Whether it's with other people or especially with yourself. So this is our challenge, and this is our call for awakening. It starts first in the pain, in the dukkha you experience from moment to moment, in your sitting and outside of your sitting. Do you see that as a bell? Or do you see it as, like an obstacle, a hindrance? Do you see it as like an enemy? And often we relate to our own minds and our own bodies as an enemy. You're not going to say it, you're not going to use that term, but you see it as something that you need to struggle against and win. Right? Instead, the enemy, how do you turn an enemy into a friend? Okay? The Dalai Lama says, a stranger is a friend I haven't met yet. Okay? So the enemy is the teacher you haven't listened to. Okay? It doesn't mean you should listen to their literal words, because they are conditioned also. But you have to listen to their pain. That's what you have to listen to. I also saw this other article today, just like this headline thing. It's really interesting. It's talking about prisoners, like prisoners with life sentences. Yeah, and the headline was, before asking what they did, ask what happened to them. Imagine that. And one of the first things that prisoners I read want to know about other prisoners is, what are you in here for? You know, like, what are you in here for? And of course, everybody, like, the main thing is, like, it's a mistake. I'm in here with a mistake. I'm in sin. Yeah. I'm going to kill my lawyer when I get out, but I'm innocent. But here, it was a different approach. It was recognizing the universality of trauma and of abuse and of wounds and deep pain and suffering that will then repeat itself when it is not cared for. In the same way, your reactions that cause you stress will repeat themselves if you don't listen to them. Ignoring them is only going to postpone them. That's all it's going to do. So when we're talking about compassion, it's really similar to metta in the sense of, first and foremost, you are paying attention. And you're saying, okay, I'm answering the call. What do you want to say? Right? What do you want to say? What do you have to tell me? Okay? And remember that the literal message, the verbal message, is not the one that's going to change your heart. Okay? Because suffering and pain and these messages and also what you read and what you see in the world around you, we're receiving it cognitively through our own filters and our own expectations and frames of understanding. That's not going to give you the lesson you need to change the way you feel and the way you relate. We have to hear and see and explore and inquire from a different level. Okay? A physical and intuitive and simply open awareness. The unconditioned. That's the awareness. And I get back to that again. What is the mind that can transform suffering into wisdom, dukkha into enlightenment, samsara into nirvana? What is that mind? Okay? Why do the teachings always say, in the Mahayana teachings, that samsara and nirvana are identical? Okay? That the place of suffering and the place of freedom are the same place. How do I understand that? How do I understand it? It must mean something. What does it mean? And again, the question is more important than the answer. What is this suffering, this dukkha, coming to teach me? If I answer the call, what is the teacher and what is the teaching? The question will guide you, not the answer. Don't expect that you're going to come to some great revelation and deep insight into the suffering that you pay attention to. Perhaps the only thing that the suffering is here to tell you is that it's here. Perhaps that's the only thing that you will learn when you face this difficulty, is that it's real, it's here, and it's undeniable. And perhaps that's enough for now. You cannot rush wisdom. The transformation that you need to go through will happen in its own time. It's not your time, because your time is self-time. Okay, there's self-time and there's Buddha time. And they're not the same. And you can't even know what Buddha time is. You'd have to be a Buddha to know it. Okay? So don't ask how long it's going to take to be free of suffering. All right? Just connect to this moment. So, sounds pretty heavy, but it's not actually. It's actually not. And I'm going to share a koan, a story from the Zen tradition, that will give us a bit of, balance to this. It had to do with a couple of monks and a pair of socks. Okay? Sounds like a joke in a bar. No. So what happened was this. This is a koan, and it's a teaching tool that's handed down in the Zen tradition, in Rinzai Zen, in order for students to sort of think about and realize that they have no idea what's going on, and that to understand it is not going to come through thinking about it. So that's the purpose of using words, is to have to at some point say, I have no idea. Like what we do with suffering. What do I do with this? How do I heal? How do I help here? How do I help? How do I help those refugees? I have no idea. Okay, I have no idea. Right? It doesn't mean that I say I can't, and it doesn't mean that I say I can. I know what to do. Right? If I say I can't help them, I'm giving up. Okay? If I say I can, well, good idea, until it doesn't work. And then you feel disappointed. So what if I just can accept the fact that a lot of the healing, I have no idea what to do. Right? I just have no idea. Okay? But that no idea you can feel more comfortable with, because it's an open, spacious place. Right? Let your mind open to the space of not knowing and see what you find. So, one day Guishan, after sitting the whole day, see we've already have some encouragement here, after sitting the whole day, gathered his feet in his hands and pointed to his straw sandals and said to Yangshan, all the hours a day we receive people's support, we should not betray them. Okay, what is going on here? First of all, they're sitting all day. Good start. Secondly, they're in a monastery somewhere in the north, and it's cold, right? It's cold. It's like a lot colder than with the air conditioner on. Like, it's really cold. And they don't wear socks. The tradition is they don't wear socks. I was in this monastery in Japan, a bit in the north, and it was really cold, and they had this thing of like not wearing socks, even though they have these nice socks where like it has a thumb sock so that you can wear your, they're called tabu, and you can wear your sandals. They have these sandals like thongs, like thongs. What do you call them here? Whatever. Nice. So imagine socks made for those. Great. Perfect, right? But they don't wear them because they don't want to, they feel like it's an indulgence. Okay, it's a luxury, and they don't want to allow themselves that luxury of wearing socks when it's freezing cold. I was like, I knew this koan already, but I didn't want to start getting in an argument with the monk because I knew it just wouldn't help. Right, so I bit my tongue and wore my socks. So. So that's the background, and then he's like holding his feet saying like, all day people support us, we should not betray them. Like, how do we, these monasteries are dependent on people's support, and people come and they give all sorts of, monetary and material support, and we should not betray them. Meaning we should live up to their expectations, we should practice, really well, because that's what they need. They're sort of paying us for that. So he wants to know, how can we, what is the best way to pay back the people who are supporting us, right? Because sometimes if you're in a monastery and you get all this support, you kind of feel like, what am I doing to deserve this? I'm just sitting on my butt all day. Like, am I really helping these people? Is that real compassion to know that, I've got a comfortable setup here? And all these people are, coming and bringing stuff and really helping out, and bowing to the monks and so much reverence. And I'm just lost in my own, problems, even though I'm wearing a robe or I'm in this place and it seems all great. Am I really, we should not betray them. I feel like I'm betraying these people. That's what he's saying. I feel like I'm a fake. Okay. And so what does his co-monk, his colleague, respond. Yangshan said, long ago in Sudatta's garden, the Buddha explained just this. Right, well that's pretty catchy. So you mean the Buddha was asking, someone asked Sudatta, or this garden, who is this also layperson who supported the monks, and they were receiving so much support because there were a lot more monks. And the Buddha talked about the same thing, like how do we pay back, how do we make it a fair deal, basically. How do I do my part when I'm receiving so much support? Grishan said, that's not enough, you got to say more. He actually said, it's not enough, say more. Like, don't tell me that the Buddha explained it. What did the Buddha explain? Like, what is the explanation? How do I really live up to, what's the best way to give? How do I give? How do I give back? How do I help? That's what the question is here. How do I help? What's the real way to help? And that's the question of compassion. Is saying, like, I shouldn't betray them. Meaning, how do I really live up to the expectation that I should be doing, like, help here? I should be helping out. Even if in my mind I'm lost in the dream of myself and I'm so self-centered, still, I can ask the question with that, okay, how do I really get out of myself and help others? What's the real way to help? That's the compassionate question here. What do I do? What will help? What will help? And these are questions that we should ask frequently. Is, there's this sort of intention and prayer that we give, like, may all beings be happy and may all beings be free of suffering. What does that mean? Well, first of all, happiness, I don't even know. Like, what will make you happy, really? Okay? And then also, what is freedom from suffering? Right? What is freedom from suffering? How do I help? So that's real what is under this koan here. That's the question here. Now we're at the punchline. Yangshan replied, okay, when it's cold out, wearing socks for others is allowed. What were you expecting? Like, I'm going to save everybody? No. Wearing socks when it's cold is allowed. Isn't that the weirdest thing you ever heard? No, it's actually the simplest thing. And it is so personal and so appropriate, so skillful. Okay? You're not putting yourself at a higher level. You're relating to where they are at, And if they offer you socks, and even though as a monk you're not supposed to wear socks, and that was their offering, and you don't want to just not only insult them, but you want to feel that they're helping so that they start to cultivate the compassionate mind, that they can help others too, then you put those socks on, right? You wear socks for others. Receiving a gift is a way of giving, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying that you want to know how to really help? Be gracious. Okay, be gracious. Okay, have some grace in your life. Receive well and give well. And see the unity of receiving and giving. And relate to people where they're at, not where you're at. You're this great monk, you can go without socks all winter. Good for you, but they can't, so you should wear socks. And then they'll be able to relate to you better. And they'll feel like they're giving. Here, the commentary expounds upon this, which I want to share with you. In these koans, the editor of the koans, who gathered them from the tradition and from China, in the 900s, then added a sort of a verse, a commentary at the end. And here's what he says: all the masters throughout time have always looked to guiding and helping all living beings. Good start. They would set up their shops according to their abilities and in response with the needs of time, place, position, and degree. They'd set up their shops. Are they just monks here? No, they're shopkeepers. They'd do their business according to the needs of time, place, and ability and degree. Isn't that amazing? In this time, socks are needed. In this time, they're not. Okay? appearing and disappearing in harmony with the occasion. They created countless kinds of skillful means to relieve suffering. We should understand that to wear socks for others is a very personal matter. It is the seamless Dharma activity that is the 10,000 hands and eyes of the great compassion itself. It is the spiritual light of four virtues of the Bodhisattva manifesting in the 10 directions. But tell me, right now, how do you manifest it in your life? Wow, what a commentary, eh? Mm-hmm. So, here we are. We thought we were just talking about socks. And it ended up being the whole Buddha light of enlightenment activity of the great compassionate, like Bodhisattva compassion with 10,000 hands and eyes in all directions, helping, doing the job by putting on those socks. Yeah. And they say, like, remember, wearing socks is a very personal matter. And that's key here. This is the key. That was the key, in my point of view, that was the key comment. Which was, it's not an intellectual or cognitive thing. It's a personal thing. You relate personally, person to person, not monk to, subject or teacher to student. It's like a personal thing, What do you need in this moment? And as he said at the end, tell me right now, how are you manifesting that? Like right now in your life, specifically. It's not abstract. It is really not abstract. It's a question we ask. How do I relieve suffering? We have this chant in Zen, sentient beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Yeah, that's actually, sometimes counterproductive to chant that without understanding that it's a very personal matter. Okay? That sentient beings are numberless, great. Abstract, cognitive, the whole world I'm going to help. What do you mean help the whole world? Kumbaya? No, it's this moment, this personal moment, okay? What's needed now? As you said, they appear and disappear. There are countless ways of skillful means. What is your way now? And it won't be your way tomorrow or next week. Don't rely on past gifts. What is your way now? Okay? What's needed right now? And it's personal. It's going to be different for each person, for each moment, for each place, for each need. Okay? And it appears and disappears. Right? It manifests and then it's gone. And there's nothing to hold on to. The compassion you give, the compassion you receive. The need, the suffering, the dukkha itself appears and disappears. Right? You were suffering when we were sitting, and now you're not. What happened? Disappeared. And then it'll come back again. Reappears. Okay? Keep it personal. A teacher was once asked, sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. How the heck do I do that? And he said, one at a time. One at a time. And that's the same thing. Like, it's a very personal thing. Wearing socks is a very personal thing. So for this monk, he needed to wear socks. And for this monk, maybe he needed not to wear socks. Right? And for this person, maybe they need this. And for this person, maybe she needs this. So it's not only very personal, it's always changing. And if it's always changing and always personal, it means you can't be lost in your dream. And that brings us back to our meditation. That you have to stay awake to this moment and pay attention to the dukkha calling you now, either in you or in the person in front of you, right? And not the abstract idea, either the idea of yourself. Believe me, we can be lost in an abstract idea with us, okay? And what does that mean? That means I have all these ideas that create a lot of suffering in my life. Let's bring it back to something simple. I'm experiencing some pain. And before I encounter and engage with the pain directly, I suddenly am lost in all of my ideas of what this pain is about, what it means, what it's going to lead to, what it says about me, okay, and how it's impossible. Dream. Come back to reality. Come back to unconditioned reality. Unconditioned, see through some of your ideas. Those ideas won't disappear, But instead of being, opaque, they become transparent. You can see through the ideas. You know they're there, but you can see through them. Right? And it's not just cloudy. That's opaque. It's transparent. You can see through them. But you see them. They're not going to disappear. Okay? Your conditioning is strong. But it's not stronger than your awakened mind. That light of your unconditioned awareness is the truth of what you are. And you know that when you have these moments of insight that are not about you having the insight, but it just is what it is. Okay? And then nothing changes except your ability to be here. It's very personal. Keep it personal, right? It's you and you, first of all. And it's not you and your idea of you. This is not just a Buddhist teaching. It really is not. This is just our reality. This is being human. And I thought that when I found this short poem by Emily Dickinson, and she wrote, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin into his nest again, I shall not live in vain." It's a good expression of how personal it is. One at a time. One moment at a time. One pain at a time. And we can even make it closer and connect it to our practice. For us, let's keep it one breath at a time. And then I think you'll be okay.